Ready? You guys ready? Yep. Which one's up?
Ready, Luke?
It's SSDD.
Huh?
SSDD. Is that a new one?
We're ready, Dave.
I know. You're on.
I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Election committee meeting. Drawing to an end. Always seems so when we get near the end, we get behind the eight ball. Dig out behind it. First one up tonight, sexual assault.
Hello, everybody. I'm Erin K. Flood. I'm the Executive Director of Sexual Assault Response Services of Southern Maine, otherwise known as SARSA. Our catchment area is Cumberland and York counties, and we provide free confidential services to community members in those catchment areas who've been impacted by sexual violence, and that can be people who are survivors themselves, caretakers, educators, youth-serving adults. We offer programming in crisis response, prevention education, and we also own and operate the Children's Advocacy Center in York County. I'm not quite sure what the breadth of my presentation should be, other than we've been very grateful for, I've been with the organization about 2 years, but my understanding is the support of Buxton goes back a number of years prior to that, and we are very grateful for the generous donation that we receive every year. We've requested $1,000 this year, which is in line with what we've requested and been awarded in the past. And how that will impact us is, well, I'd love to give you numbers of how many Buxton residents we've served. Most people, when they work with us, report confidential, and they don't share their location. But we are available to residents 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We operate a 24-hour helpline, which many people do use as their first entry into our services. And this support allows us to provide those services. Many of you may be aware that there's been some changes in fiscal support on the federal level. We do receive most of our funding from the state. However, we have been impacted in the last 2 months by some changes that are happening nationwide, mostly to our prevention education. So this will help us. We're in the school system in York County. We have a youth advisory board and youth group that we implement. So this will help offset some of the costs incurred through those programs.
Questions?
I'm all set. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you. This is my first time. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to present. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
This next one, I don't know what we're gonna do. This is the Girl Scout. I have a answering machine at her house, probably 5 times. Messing. I even went to her house Sunday. I was home. We'll have to take this up amongst ourselves and
Sharon,
What's your idea?
Sharon, I'll reach out to her. I'll reach out to her.
How much did they ask? 2,200.
2,200? I'll reach out to her.
Did they take your money from last year?
No, they didn't, that's why I gotta reach out.
Okay.
Going to speeding things up here on us. Estes Park?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
My name's Mia Dodge. I'm a trustee at Estes Park, and we're asking for $3,550 towards the maintenance of the park and some future improvements. And no surprises here, except that a lot more people are using the park, a lot more people are parking at the park. And we'd like to continue with the lawn mowing, bushwhacking, and mosquito spray that we've been doing in the past.
Mia, how much are you requesting? I'm sorry.
$3,550.
So you're carrying over from last year, 11,828?
Uh-huh.
What is the plan for that?
We're accumulating money each year. We were told that that's the way to do it in order to, when the time comes to do a bigger project like putting in, there's a half-mile track and then a quarter-mile loop for walking or jogging or dog walking. We'd also like to do some improvements with things like possibly a playground, possibly augment the softball field that's there, possibly a pavilion that's there.
Okay, so is there plans to actually do that, or are you thinking you'd like to?
We have a plan. It was drawn up for us by Sebago Technics.
Yeah.
And that was a pro bono
Yeah.
offering to us. The next step with them, I just learned it's going to be extremely expensive. And so what we'd like to do is to take that plan that we already have and use the pieces of it that fit in the park and fit with what people are doing now.
Okay. So what is the plan? I mean, what, are you putting in the track, are you putting in the?
That might be the first and next step. We've had to pull back a little bit. We had to wait quite a while because the town had to determine ownership of the land, so that took quite a bit of time. And so we haven't been able to do anything physically this year because the planning company couldn't go forward with our plan without the exact parameters. We now have that, and it's in the town folder, so that's really good. And so that's our hope, is to get that track in, get more people in the park. I know that the town and the state actually use that front parking space oftentimes, like we just did last week for there was some tree work. And so we'd like to, make that a little bit better and work with the town in doing that.
Okay, do you know what the cost of putting that track in is?
We do not know. What we're up against is we ask for people to come in and tell us what it might cost, but then they want the total plan, which we don't have yet.
Right.
Yeah. There's also the possibility, we were thinking of talking with some folks like the Boy Scouts. Maybe they have somebody there that's working on an advanced merit and could help us that way. And I know other parks have done it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'm all set. Thank you.
I want to ask a question. Go ahead.
I guess my only issue is, this is my 5th year on the board, and it seems like every year this keeps coming up, but nothing really happens. At some point, something's going to have to happen.
Yep. We can easily spend the money. Very easily spend the money. What we're trying to do is to be proactive and get the best use of the dollars. We don't want to just put in something and then say, oh dear, we should have done it a different way, or we hired somebody that we really didn't need to hire. And so years ago, I was advised to increase or add to our coffer, let's say, each year until we get to the point where we have enough money to put in a playground, for example.
But what's the cost of that?
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
So you just keep adding money and money every year, but really not
Exactly right.
showing it. So, okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Sorry,
we could,
Jeff.
No, we're on the same
Yeah.
page. We're good.
So, So you said this year you're thinking about doing something. Are you willing to commit to do something this year?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And what would that be? Would that be
Yeah.
the track?
That would be probably the track, and then what we're hoping to do is to get placement for a pavilion and placement for a playground.
Okay.
And we have the drawing that also has courts in it.
Okay.
You know, if somebody wants to put in a pickleball court, there's a spot for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Selectmen?
Yeah, I got a few questions. So Mia, I want to thank you for the work that you've been doing over there. I do appreciate that, and I understand what you're trying to achieve with these, you know, increment, you know, each year, getting a little bit more to try to come up with a plan. My only concern is that I've heard walkways, different walkways, playgrounds, right? I think there needs to be like a focusing point. Okay, we're getting money because we are going to do this summer, whatever that may be. Because you're growing, it's costing you, you know, $2,500 to maintain the park, and then you're putting $880 towards the future development, right? $880 is not even, you know, it's barely keeping up with the rate of inflation for what you're going to do, right? So I think that we need to come up with, like Mike said, maybe like a focus point. Okay, this is what we're going to do. If it's not this year, that's fine, but maybe next year and say, okay, this is what we're planning to do. This is the resources we need. Because every time you do something, right, now the cost to maintain the park goes up as well.
Right.
Right, if you create trails or playgrounds, there's a maintenance piece to that, so that the cost to, you know, to use the park now continues to go up every single year, that you do something different. And so, I'm in favor of you trying to utilize that park for whatever it is that you want to utilize it for. You've taken this on, and I appreciate that. I just would like to get a little more focus and say, okay, we have $11,000, we want to put another $880. What are we doing with the money? What's the goal? What are we going to achieve with these resources? And if it's like, this is what we want, then at that point, if we're going to spend, you know, $25,000 to build a playground there, for example, whatever that number is, let's just use, whatever that is, 20,000. At that point, I'd rather see you come to the town and say, okay, listen, instead of piecemealing this, because 880 is never going to get us there, we want the town to allocate $20,000 to build a playground. And then the townspeople would then have a choice to say, yes, we want a playground there, or no, we don't want a playground there. It would be the voice of the people that would dictate what goes into Estes Park. And so, all I'm asking is that at this point here, you know, we got 11,000 there. I mean, trails, paths, they're all great ideas. I just think we should get a little more focused and say, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve, and come in front of the people of the town, rather than just, you know, piecemealing and hopefully get enough money to do something where, do the townspeople really want whatever it is that you're trying to achieve? I don't know that, but I think the townspeople should have a say in what that's going to be.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Sure.
Nope, good.
Estes?
No, good.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Where's the police department? There's the K-9.
Not quickly. I mean, it's the first year. I think I filled in for him, right? Did he get elected?
I'm running way ahead of schedule there. I think it might be. The police department. Next meeting, left it first.
Oh, okay. She didn't really have the answer.
I think we'll just take a short break right now.
All right, thank you. Just a few minutes.
Yeah, probably.
I heard.
You did already?
Good.
Okay, I'd like to thank Police Chief for coming in tonight. He's here already. PD, dispatch, animal control. I'd like to read it off.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you all for having me here tonight. I wanted to start off tonight with just giving you a little bit of an update over the last year at the police department, kind of what's been going on, some of our stats, some of the staffing that we have. So it's been a fairly busy year for Buxton PD. We are currently at full staff in dispatch with 5 full-time dispatchers. We have 1 opening in the patrol division, but we are actively looking to recruit. We just haven't been successful in that at this point. Some of the new things that we implemented that were approved in last year's budget, we got 2 new dispatch computers. Those are up and running and working much better than the old ones. They have their own video cards. Like I said last year, some of the issues we were having is some of the programs that they run kind of overload the computers a little bit. So having the new ones in place has really helped tremendously. One of the other things that was purchased last year was the TrueNarc drug testing instrument. That has been working very well. We use it to scan drugs that we get on the street. It allows us to not go hands-on. We can use the scanner without having to handle the drug at all. And to date now, we've done just over 300 scans with that device. So it's been a great purchase. In 2024, we promoted a dispatch supervisor. That was something that was approved last year. Dispatch supervisor Aubrey Pennell got that position. We also approved or promoted a patrol sergeant, Brian Donahue. So those have been promotions that took place in July. So they're coming up on their year now, and they've been doing very well. Things are going very smooth with both dispatch and patrol. So over the last year, we've implemented a new program at the police department. It's called the Buxton Community Alliance Program. This is similar to the Neighborhood Watch program. It's run by Officer Adam Rickey, and they usually meet monthly, and they highlight topics each month. So, last month when they met, they went over dispatch and animal control, and so usually there's a topic that they go over. It's been very well put together, and I think there's been a really good turnout. Dave, you've been there. It's a great program. It gives the community an opportunity to have a voice in what's going on in the police department and kind of know some of the ins and outs and how things kind of work behind the scenes. It opens the floor up for questions. So I've attended a couple of the meetings, and it's been very well received. It's good for both sides. It's been really good. So if there's anybody that's interested in becoming part of that program, you can contact Officer Adam Rickey. They also do Microsoft Teams, and they stream it live. So if you're not able to actually come into the PD, they started testing streaming it live, and that's been working well as well. So it's a really good program. I'm just going to go over some calls for service in 2024. In 2024, we responded to 16,370 calls for service. Of those, we had 341 arrests, 2,513 traffic stops. 513 of those calls ended with an offense report. And what that means is there was some kind of crime that was committed. It doesn't necessarily mean it ended in an arrest, but there was a crime that was committed that the officer had to take a report on. 169 calls were for traffic accidents. So that's kind of a year in review for us. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Do you have what's a comparison from '23?
I don't have those numbers in front of me now. I can get those for you, but I don't have those numbers.
Do you feel it's this rising
I
or
think we're
staying the
up a
same?
little bit from where we were the previous year, but I think the year before that, we were down. So we're kind of averaging out. So I think it went down a little bit last year, but now I think we're back up to where we were the previous year. And that 16,370 calls is every single call for service that's come into the Buxton Dispatch Center. So that could be community cares, building checks, traffic stops, anything that's officer initiated, rescue calls, fire calls. That's every call that's come into that center that has required us to make a call for service. And then I just kind of broke it down by arrest, traffic stops, because those are the kind of the meat and potatoes of it. But certainly, you know, that's a lot of calls for us to handle. Not every single one required a response for somebody to physically go to an address, or some can be handled over the phone, but those are all the calls that have come into that dispatch center.
How do you think the intersection's going, 112, with it now being a four-way stop?
I would say, without having stats, I would say the crashes have subsided a little bit there. It doesn't mean we don't still have crashes there, but I would say it's definitely a little bit better. I think most of the stuff we deal with now is people get repetitive to that and they don't remember that there's a stop sign there, so sometimes we have some incidents like that, but it's not like it was before.
Right.
It's definitely, and most of them are fairly minor crashes, where before they were pretty significant crashes because of the speeds that people are going at that intersection, but I think that's subsided a little bit now.
Yes, I live right around the corner from that, and
Yep.
I would say it's a substantial change. That
Yeah.
I think the numbers almost dropped, because you're not hearing that screeching and the bang anymore. I mean, you have, the last couple months, I think we heard there were two accidents, but I think both of those were, well, from what I can see, people not paying attention.
Right. Yep, they become complacent
Yep.
to their surroundings, and they
Yeah.
forget that it's a four-way stop, or
Yeah.
they're not paying attention to that. Whereas before, I think we were, and like I said, a lot of them were a lot faster speeds.
Yeah.
Now we deal with does everyone know how to move on a four-way stop, and we don't really take our turn, and so that someone might go and somebody else might think it's their turn, and they run into each other. So it's a fairly minor fender bender, instead of ending up in the parking lot of Lowe's,
Right.
with the cars destroyed,
Yeah.
which I think it's a big improvement there.
And I think too, it has slowed down the speeders coming in the direction, both ways.
Yeah.
Because now they're actually forced to stop.
Yep.
Before, it used to be kind of a stop, but
Right.
go through it.
Yeah. Yeah, now it actually requires them to come to a complete stop and look to see where other traffic
Right,
is.
yeah.
Whereas before, the cross-traffic wasn't stopping, but they weren't taking the time to look at that cross-traffic,
Right.
realizing that they're not gonna stop, they're gonna keep going. But I think that's the biggest thing that happens at four-way intersections is, I think some people anticipate that car is gonna stop, and when they don't, they don't anticipate that and they crash. This way, now all traffic's gonna stop, and whatever happens after that, I don't think there's more we could do, so. But I would say it's definitely a big improvement.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, just so you know, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago for the new bridge, and that will be a working light when they start the repair on the bridge. That'll be not just a blinking light, it'll be actually street light.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it is gonna stay?
Oh, I didn't realize it was gonna stay. No. That was at, that traffic light. No, that's not gonna stay.
No.
But he's talking, they wanna put another light down by the bridge where, Joy Valley Road.
Oh, yeah.
So they wanna put a working light there, but they're gonna put a working light at that
And while they're
intersection
doing
to get us through the construction of the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Nice.
sense.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions about my stats or introduction? Nope. Okay. All right, I'll get right in on salaries. So when it comes to salaries, there's a few topics in here that I want to cover. I think I'll address, as you can see, there's a little bit of an increase. One of those is because we were in union negotiations. We've spent several months at this point trying to negotiate through the best contract to fit our employees and also meet the needs of the town and what their budget's going to be. We've made tremendous progress with that. We haven't signed a contract, but we're close enough to signing that I think I'm comfortable with the numbers that are in here for the contract. If it was not to be the numbers that you see here, I think it will be very close to those numbers. So that's why we put together what the last proposal was that we've kind of kicked around to talk about. And so I'm fairly confident that this will be the end result of what we've negotiated. So that's where some of the increase is. The non-union employees in town received a 3% increase. And then some of the spike in the salary line. So we have one of our employees here is with the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency. That's Kevin Cashman. He's a supervisor for the Southern District. We sponsor his position. It's fully paid by the state 100%. There is no cost to the town of Buxton for that position. Because it's a law enforcement position and that is a main drug, it's kind of hard, without getting too far into the weeds, he has to have a sponsoring agency to keep his law enforcement certification up. We maintain his training, but he does it all on the time that he's with the state. We just affiliate that for him. It doesn't cost us any money. He keeps his certification up, we sponsor him, and we basically get him at our disposal. He will come out any time of the day, 24 hours a day. He also has a team that works for him, which is also at our disposal. So if we have issues going on with drug activity, we give Kevin a call, and he puts his team on it. And so it's paid 100% by the state of Maine. And this year, which I haven't done in the past, is I actually put it into the budget. So it shows as it's being paid out of my budget. And then on the other end, it will show as a revenue. And I think Bill might be able to explain that a little bit better, but we felt that that was the best way to handle that position because it is money that goes out by the town of Buxton. However, it is 100% covered in revenue by the state of Maine. And the only thing that it costs the town of Buxton is the time it takes to process his payroll, essentially. The other thing you'll see on there is you'll see a school resource officer that's listed on there. It shows as vacant right now because obviously we haven't filled that because it has to be an approved position. So probably 2 or 3 months ago, the superintendent of MSAD 6 reached out to me and he wanted to partner in an SRO position. Him and I had talked about it last year. We kind of ran out of time as things went on, and so we decided to put it off to this year. He reached out to me again in late December and asked if it was something I wanted to try to put together for this year. So the idea behind that is, although it shows in our budget, it's kind of the same thing as with Kevin Cashman, is that just for documentation in my budget, it shows that we're funding that position fully, when actually the school department is going to create revenue for us for that position, and it would be 9 months out of the year the school would pay, and then the town of Buxton would take up the next 3 months. And so there's a couple things with that. So obviously that 9 months is for when school is in session. And during vacations, snow days, and summertime, that officer would come back to the town of Buxton and patrol the streets of Buxton wherever they were needed. So in the busy time during the summer, that officer returns and he or she would take up a position that either might be vacant because of a vacancy that we have, saving in overtime, and if we're at full staff, then they can fill in and just help out where it's needed, where the heavy times are. And then, like I said, during snow days, school gets canceled, that officer reports to work, and they're out on the street patrolling, helping out with crashes or anything else that might be going on during a snowstorm or inclement weather that requires them to not be in school. And then the last thing is when they're on school vacation, obviously they're not going to go to school with no kids there. They would report to the police station, and same thing, they would cover the road and help out wherever they're needed on that, whether there's a hole in the schedule or they're an additional person to help out with the patrol division. That's what that position would be before. So 9 months out of the year, the school department covers it. The remaining 3 months, the town of Buxton covers that. It's roughly, when I did the numbers, it is about, $25,750 of just, I don't think I included insurance and benefits in that, but that's, actually, that number does include insurance and benefits. So it would cost the town about $26,000 a year for that position to utilize it in the off time of school. Along with that, the school department would split any equipment or any uniforms that need to be purchased to outfit that officer, and we would split that 50-50. So they would be responsible for 50% of whatever equipment that needed to be purchased to get that officer up and running.
Are they paying for part of the benefits also?
Yes.
Okay. Can I back up for 1 second?
Sure.
To the DEA?
Yes.
Is that going to be part of the tax base? No? Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So I just would like Kevin to give clarity here on Mike, that if the school does not approve the
Correct.
SRO position, we are not going to, it will be in this budget, because this
Right.
budget will be done, but we will not fund it, and that money will go back into undesignated
Correct.
surplus.
That's a good point. So, yeah, so like Mark said, if I hear from the school superintendent that it's been cut in their budget, it's gone from ours, and he understands that.
And when are they looking to start this, in September?
That's the other thing, that it would start in September in the next school year. So an SRO has to go to specialized training, so they would have to go away to school. I'm still researching that, but there are schools available for them to go to. That's something that we would share the cost in. And hopefully we could get that person up and running before the school year starts.
Yeah.
The only caveat to that is if I'm not at full staff, I'm going to have a hard time putting somebody in the school when I don't have the streets covered. So it's going to be a delicate thing, and we haven't dug really too far into the meat and potatoes of it, because if it's a dead issue, there's no sense to try to work out a plan if we're not going to get it to begin with. So we're kind of in the early stages of their approval, and he told me that as soon as he has word on whether or not it's been cut, he's going to let me know. So he's got a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, and once we get to that point, we'll make a decision how to move forward from there. But like Mark said, if it gets cut, it's gone out of my budget as well.
The whole 86,000,
Yes.
or just the 3-month part?
Nope, the whole thing.
So why would it go to undesignated surplus?
Well, because so this budget is going to be done before we get an answer. No?
So what'll happen, I think, is if the chief gets information from the school that has been cut, which I think will happen before our annual meeting, what we can do is
Right.
on the floor, we can decrease it.
That's right.
It won't come up in a warrant.
Well, it'll be in the warrant. The warrant will say the total amount, but when we address the warrant, what'll happen is the chairman will say, we'd like to decrease the amount of the warrant by X because the SRO officer did not get approved by the school. Because remember, in an annual town meeting, you can decrease a warrant, you just can't increase it.
Right.
That's right. Okay. Sorry about that. That's correct.
And I anticipate knowing that fairly soon. I've been in communication with him. He's been kind of updating me on how things have been progressing in the meetings that he's been attending. And he assured me that as soon as he feels it's a go or it's not, he's going to let me know. Because obviously if it's not a go, we need to take it out.
Right.
If it is a go, then we need to start preparing for what the meat and potatoes of it all and how it's going to be ironed out. We just haven't got that far into it at this point. Any other questions about that or anything in the salary line?
Yeah, it just says Pleasant Point Park Patrol Officers. Is that something we've been doing?
So we utilize that money for Pleasant Point Park coverage when we have reserves that we can use for that. And we would put reserves down there, and that would be the money that would be used for that. Every year, we seem to have shortage in staffing, so we're utilizing those reserve officers to cover patrol shifts. But in the event that we were at full staff and we had the 2 or 3 reserves that we have and there wasn't road work for them to do, that's where they would be assigned. So we leave that money in the budget, so if we get that, because we still have problems at Pleasant Point Park from time to time, and it really, during the summertime, should really have somebody down there making sure that people are being safe and not breaking the law down there. It's just, when we have the opportunity to do it, we end up losing that to staffing issues, which I think everybody kind of struggles with a little bit. Anyone else? All right, I'll move on to the police department's supplies account. This account requested $4,800, which is the same amount that I asked for last year, so no change there. That covers photocopy paper, basically any supplies that we need to keep the police station operational from a day-to-day basis. I didn't feel that I needed to increase that, so I left that the same.
Do we know why there was a carryover in that account line?
So there was a carryover last year because towards the end of the year, some of the things that we purchased from that account was not available. So I asked for the select board to carry that forward so that I could make the purchases that I was not able to make at the end of the year.
Have they been made?
They have been made. We haven't done a huge supply grab yet, so that's why there's still money in that account, because we haven't re-upped our supplies. We just changed staffing with the police department as far as an administrative assistant, and we're still doing categorying and inventory on what we need before we make paper purchases and all that stuff. It needed to be gone through to make sure we have adequate supplies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good. Gas, fuel, gas mileage, I left that the same at $47,600. We're in pretty good shape for this year, so I left that number the same. I think Bill kind of keeps track of our totals for gas, and he felt that we were on target to kind of stay where we were at. So we left that number alone. Good?
Good.
Vehicle maintenance, I did increase this by $2,000. This is mostly because, we have to send our vehicles out for repairs and routine regular maintenance. Those costs have increased every year. I find that no matter how much money I budget for it, it still gets close every year. And unfortunately for us, it's not something that I can pass over. If there's a problem with a vehicle, it needs to be fixed. I can't cut corners or save on parts or, wait until another time to do it. If they call out something that's wrong with it, it has to be repaired, and it's the nature of the beast. It seems like whenever I look at the budget and we make progress. For example, yesterday, I needed to spend $3,000 on 2 vehicles for the town, so we struggle with it. So I increased that by a couple $1,000 just to make sure that we had enough in there to not go over.
Are you going to hit budget this year on it?
I think I'm going to be all right with budget this year. I mean, obviously, I can't project what's going to happen in the next 3 months, but right now, I still have $7,000 in there to use. I can't say that if we're just doing routine oil changes and tire rotations, I'm not going to use up that $7,000, but if we have a catastrophic event, it could take it out.
Still being done at Bulldog?
It still gets done at Bulldog Auto, yep. They do great work for us, and they, they're really good about selling us stuff that has warranties, and so that if the stuff fails a second time, they honor it. They replace the parts under warranty. They've been really good to us, so I'm confident that as long as we don't have anything that's too bad, we'll be all right. And like I said, we just had to spend that $3,000. So we're down to about $4,000 after the end of next payout, because I do have about $3,000 worth of work that came in yesterday. This is new equipment. I left that number the same. And that's just used for new equipment for officers and stuff that we need to purchase at the PD. So that number stayed the same from last year. Next is equipment repair. That's to repair any equipment around the PD that fails on us. I left that the same at $2,100. The next one is the Axon contract. That is for our body cameras, tasers, and the cruiser cameras. We're in our third year of that contract with them. The reason that I increased it a little bit is because last year we purchased a new body camera and basically new equipment for the officer that was approved in last year's budget, and because of licensing, that increases it a little bit. So that number will increase a little bit, so $34,000 will cover that.
What's the life of those cameras?
So those cameras, the package that we have, it's a 5-year, it's kind of a leasing type thing. We own the cameras, however, so the body cameras, in that contract, if Axon comes out with a new product, a new camera, so right now they carry the Axon 3 cameras. If they come out with another camera within the first or the second half of that contract, they automatically replace it, and they have. They've come out with a body cam 4, and those should be here in another week or so. So we're getting brand new cameras at no charge to the town because it's part of that program that we're in. So as soon as they come out with a new product, we automatically get that within that 5 years.
And what year are we in the contract?
We're in the third year.
Any idea what's going to happen after the 5 years and it gets renewed?
We'll have to reevaluate that. I would say that me personally, I think Axon is an excellent piece of equipment. It's been great, and I wouldn't want to change that. I'd have to reach out to them to see if we can. If my guess is at that point we'll probably need some updates, like with the cruiser cameras and some of the equipment that's on we have sidearm signals on our gun belts, so when we draw our weapon, it automatically turns on all the cameras. So some of that stuff might need to be replaced. It is a wear item. So I'd have to reach out to them once we got closer and see what kind of programs they offer to move forward with that.
Okay, thank you.
The next account is the cell phone account. This covers all the officers have cell phones. Each cruiser has a cell phone connection. So this account covers all of the officers' cell phones plus the computers inside the cars. And so that's not going to change. That number remains the same from last year.
Did we not make a change so that we didn't have as many dead spots in the town?
As far as cell phone coverage?
Yeah, I thought we did something different. No?
No. The only thing that that changed a little bit, which doesn't really change the cell phone account, so when we went to the Axon camera system, they provide us with a cradle point. So there's a cradle point in each car. And so before, the computers had SIM cards in them, and they operated off a SIM card, which was essentially a cell phone account. Now, those SIM cards are in the cradle point. So the Axon camera connects to the cradle point, and then the computer itself connects to the cradle point. So for purposes of money-wise, it's the same cost. It's just a different way that information is being broadcasted out.
So we still have officers going into dead zones?
Yes.
And not able to use their cell phones?
Correct. Correct. The next is dues and subscriptions. This one, I increased it by $600, and the reason for that is if you've looked, one of the capital improvements I asked for was a new photocopier for the hallway, and that's to cover the contract to have a maintenance agreement on that. So I increased that by $600 to cover that.
Next.
The next one is evidence supplies. That remains at $2,500. That is for us to buy property labels, evidence collection bags, and assorted equipment that are related to evidence supplies. If you look at my current budget, I'm pretty close to spending the entire line on that. And the reason for that is that line there, it also covers any testing that needs to be done at the lab. So anytime that we send any drugs or any evidence that needs to go to the crime lab, they send us a bill for that. And so we had a bill for a little over, I think it was $1,100 for a case that we sent drugs to the lab to be tested. Now, we can ask for to get that money back from the defendant once it's been adjudicated, but we obviously don't know that until it's done, and we have to pay for it. I will say that the TrueNarc has helped us with that cost. We don't send nearly as many drugs to the lab as we did before. The court doesn't require it with a TrueNarc test, but if for some reason we can't get a TrueNarc on it, it goes to the lab, and we did have one incident where that had to happen. So that kind of pushed us to the edge, but as long as we don't have anything else in that line, we should be okay.
Next.
The next is training. I did increase this by $3,000, and that was because it costs about $3,500 to send somebody to the academy, and with the position that we have open and potentially an SRO position, that I wanted to increase that. The other thing too is one of my goals is to try to be as self-sufficient as we can here at the Buxton Police Department. And what I mean by that is if we can provide internal training by our own officers, it obviously is a cost savings. But with that, the officer needs to go to training to be certified to instruct those. Also, there's accident reconstructionists that I would like to see us get, and that's about $3,500 to pay for that. So I wanted to increase that line so there was a little more training opportunities so that we can be more self-sufficient. Right now we have a taser instructor, we have an intox instructor, we have a mark instructor, but it would be nice to have some more stuff to keep us self-sufficient so we're not outsourcing our training. So that would help with that training line.
So a new officer could bypass the academy and just be trained here?
No. The only way that would happen is if we hired somebody that already had been at the academy, and we get them from another agency, or they come from another state where the state of Maine gives them a waiver to come in. We have done that with a couple of officers this year. We had one officer from Indiana and one from Georgia that came here. One of them was already a dispatcher for us, and he decided that originally he came here as a dispatcher because he didn't want to work in patrol, but once he worked in dispatch for a couple of years, he realized that he really wanted to get back out into patrol. So we went through a waiver process with him to get his academy in Georgia waived, and now he works patrol. That still costs money to do that, right. But it's not as much as sending him to the academy. And then the one from Indiana, he moved back. This is his home. He lived in Maine. Not in Buxton, but he lived in Maine, and he came back here to get into law enforcement here. He was certified in Indiana, so we did a waiver process with him as well. It's a great program, but it does cost a little bit of money, and training isn't cheap, but it also makes us more efficient and more self-sufficient, which I think is really important.
Nick?
Well, wait for a second. Have you had any turnover at all?
Yes. We always have turnover. I think everybody struggles with it, and is there a solution to that? I don't know. It's just the nature of the beast, I think, with it. We have had some turnover, but we've also been fortunate enough that when we do have somebody leave, we seem to get somebody right back in after that. And hopefully with the new union contract, we might be able to entice somebody else who's kind of on the fence to come here. I think people are really happy here, but they've left for one reason or another.
Just a follow-up on it, just for interest on it, really. How many are from Buxton? There's not many, right?
That live in the town of Buxton, currently, I think one lives in town.
Yeah, I think that's what it was last year, too.
Yep, yep.
So you're always gonna have to deal with it, that Buxton's a stepping stone, almost.
I don't think that that's the case anymore. I think that that was the case at one point. I mean, I guess I'm a good example of that. I'm a graduate of the Maine Criminal Justice Academy when I worked for the town of Buxton, and I left to go to the York County Sheriff's Office after about 6 months. And I won't get into the meat and potatoes of that, but it wasn't because I was using it as a stepping stone. It was another opportunity to have security and employment at the time for me. And when I got the opportunity to come back, I took it. And if it wasn't the place for me and it was a stepping stone, I wouldn't have landed back here. So I don't think people, I think it was known as a stepping stone in the past, but I don't see that anymore. Uniforms and accessories, I left that line the same. I'm comfortable with where we're at with that. Typically in the springtime is when we spend a lot of that money because we're coming out of winter. Boots, are worn out. Uniforms start to get worn out. And so we've still got some money left in there, but I'm confident we can carry that through and keep that number the same this year. The next one is the miscellaneous account. This one, I increased that by $1,000. The reason for that is that we do the National Night Out, which is something that we started last year. It's joint with the rec department and the fire department. And I really didn't anticipate how much of a turnout we were going to have and what kind of programs we were going to do. And so this year I wanted to set aside some additional monies to pay for some of the things that are incorporated with that event. It's a good community event, and I felt it was important to put some money towards that program. The computer account, this covers our business, our Spectrum business account, the fiber optics account, which is how our radio system gets broadcasted back to the public safety building, is through fiber optics from the school department. And I felt that $14,000 was a good number to leave it at. Radar maintenance. This account is used to calibrate our radar. It has to be done annually, and that number pretty much stays the same every year. We leave a little bit of extra money in there in case there are repairs that need to be done to our radars. Right now, through the last 2 or 3 years, well, since I've been chief, I've replaced every single radar that the town owns with grant money. So all of our radars that we have now are in fairly new condition, and we typically don't have any repair issues with them when they come out to calibrate them. However, if we did, we just have a little bit of money in there to replace or fix something that may go wrong with them.
Next.
The next one is tire replacement. I left that number the same. And this is for all the vehicles to have tires put on them as needed. And again, we've got a little bit of money left over from last year. I think the year before I may have gone over a little bit, but this year with the increase that I got last year, that's a good number to stay at. We keep rotating our tires every time they have an oil change and we monitor them. The other thing we do now is we run it's a winter tire, but it's made by Goodyear, and we run it year-round. It's cheaper. We don't have to buy summer tires, and we don't have the expense of changing them over, and so that keeps costs down a little bit. And we keep, like I said, we rotate them every time they get an oil change. The only time we run the summer tires is obviously when we get new cruisers. They come with summer tires, and we run those until they're gone, until they're worn out, and then we put on the snow tires, and we run them year-round. They're a directional tread. They're not studded. They're not real knobby tires like you would think a snow tire would be. They're a pursuit rated, basically snow tire that's a directional tire. And so you don't notice the howling going down the road. They don't perform any different, and a lot of agencies are doing that now.
Next.
The IT maintenance contract, this is our contract with Burgess Technology. They provide our computer support, and that number is basically provided by them. That's a monthly cost that we pay to them. And then we also have our photocopier that is down in the admin wing, which is a maintenance contract with them. That was, when we purchased that was before my time. And then we put $2,000 in there for non-contractual things that Burgess doesn't cover in their regular contract. If we have overnight things that happen, because we're a 24-hour operation, if our system goes down in the middle of the night, we have to call Burgess, and that's not part of that contract. They charge us for that time. Whether they send somebody out or they have to remote in, they send us a bill for that. So that's just so that we have money available to spend if we have incidentals that requires them to come in and handle that.
Next.
The next one is the Chicopee Fire Station, or the, I guess you can't call it a fire station anymore, but it was formerly the Chicopee Fire Station. As you know, last year we took over having that building, so that's expenses that are associated with that for electricity, heating oil, and anything else that goes on at that for occupancy of that building.
Really spend $6,000 in oil? Even during the summer?
That was the projected price. I don't think we're caught up on that account as far as oil goes, but yes. Yes. It is not a very well insulated building, I will say that. However, it has been very beneficial to us. We use it to wash cruisers. The patrol union put a small gym in there because we obviously don't have room for a gym here at the police station. And as you know, employee wellness is pretty important for law enforcement. And so this provides them with a place to do some exercise. And it's been very beneficial. We wash our cruisers there. We've also stored some of our files there that need to be dry storaged and climate controlled. The shed that's in the backyard, it was completely full. So we spent a lot of time at the end of last year going through that garage and getting rid of things that we don't need and things that we can get rid of, and moving a lot of cold or warm storage to the Chicopee Fire Station because there was more room there. And the smaller garage that we had in the back parking lot was given basically to the fire department. They store the muster truck in there now because that was being stored at the Chicopee Fire Station.
So is a plan to keep this long-term?
I would say for me, it'll be as long as the Board of Selectmen and the town allows us to have that building. And once we make the decision to do away with it, at that point, it is what it is. I know that there's been talk about a public safety building at some point here. I think once that happens, that building, we obviously wouldn't need it at that point. And so that's a decision for the Board of Selectmen to make. But in the meantime, we're utilizing that building, and it's working very well for us.
Okay, thank you.
The next one is the dispatch budget. And so the salaries, again, that was negotiated with the union contract. So those salary increases are based on the projected numbers of where we're at now with negotiations. There is a little bit of money in there for part-time dispatchers. Currently, we only have a couple of them right now. Actually, our court officer fills in dispatch for us in his off time. So that we just need to have money set aside for that. We do try to utilize part-time when we can because that holds down our overtime budget as well. And like I said, right now we are at full staff in there with 5 dispatchers, one being a supervisor, but that's a working position. She covers a shift and supervises the room at the same time. So she works day shift Monday through Thursday and takes care of her supervisory skills or duties while she's on the desk. Next is the telephone account for the dispatch center. That number is through GoNet Speed, and again, $5,300, and I was comfortable with where that was at. The next one is the dispatch supply account, $2,000. Left that the same. It's for supplies that are needed to run the dispatch center. New equipment, and I was comfortable with the same number as last year with $3,000, and that's to replace incidentals in that room. A lot of the equipment in there was outside of the radios, which, as you know, is a brand-new system in there. But outside of that, battery backups, keyboard replacements, or any other things that go on in that room. Obviously, we can't just not replace it, so we need to make sure we have money set aside for those type of incidentals that happen, but I was comfortable with the $3,000 money. Equipment repair, so I left that number the same again, and again, if it doesn't need to be replaced, but it is broken and it can be repaired, that's the money we would use to make repairs in the room.
Next.
Training, that's to provide training to the dispatchers. Same thing, as self-sufficient as we can become in that room as far as training goes. We like to take those opportunities that we can. But anytime we hire a new dispatcher, we have to send them to training with the state to get them certified to be in that room. Again, we're at full staff, but that doesn't mean that may not change over the next year. And if we hire somebody with no experience that doesn't have those certifications, we have to provide that to them. Uniforms and accessories. It's for uniforms for the dispatchers to wear. They wear a polo shirt or a job shirt with their the dispatch logo on it and their name on it. And so we provide that to them to keep them with a uniform.
Next.
The next one is miscellaneous for $600. I left that number the same, and that's for just any type of miscellaneous stuff that's not covered by another line item in the budget.
What kind of things have you used it for recently?
I'd have to look at what. So a lot of times that account will get used for if we put on a training and we provide refreshments or coffee, things like that. That's typically what that gets used for. And like I said, if there's anything else that comes up that's not a line item, that's what that account would be used for.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next.
The next one is the IMC maintenance contract. The IMC maintenance contract is used for the CAD system that we have. So that's the computer-aided dispatch. So when they put an incident into the computer, it creates a card in that computer system, and that is a fee or a licensing agreement we have with the with IMC. That also includes our records and any other things that we use that are related to IMC. I will tell you that IMC is going to be going away in the very near future. So something that we all as a town need to prepare for is that we're going to have to get something that is going to replace that system. The works have already started. So York County as a whole wanted to get together and buy a program that had one location for it, and each department that was involved in it in York County could buy the portions of the CAD system that they needed. They developed a committee. I had a representative from that committee at each and every one of those meetings. They wrote out RFPs for those. They have gotten pricing back. I think that right now I'm exploring other avenues to go. And the reason for that is because initially it was supposed to be one server and everyone was going to kind of buy into that one server, and now it's turned into, well, I want to have my own server, and so there's going to be multiple places for us to tie into. And my vision of that is that if I'm going to tie into a center that's not one center for the whole county, I'm better off to tie into our PSAP, which is the Scarborough Police Department or Scarborough Public Safety. So right now I'm working on how that would work, what it would cost, and how long it would take to make that happen. So I'm kind of trying to get the most bang for our buck, and spend the money as wisely as we can. I think that partnering with Scarborough is probably a really good avenue for us to go. Now, when they take a 911 call for us, they have to call us on the phone to give us that information. If we tie into their CAD system, as soon as they pull up a card for the Buxton Police Department or the town of Buxton, it'll give us instant notification. In other words, we're going to work off from their system. We're just going to be an entity that's on their system. Old Orchard Beach PD right now works off from their system. The only difference between Old Orchard and us is that Scarborough also dispatches for Old Orchard. So if we go with Scarborough, as far as they have Tyler Technology is what it's called. And if we were to go with them, it would be instantaneously because we would be on the same system as them. And to me, those seconds can count.
Any other towns involved with Scarborough besides Old Orchard?
At this point, no.
So it's not complicated?
No. I've had a couple of meetings with them just to kind of look over their system, see what it's all about. I can tell you that the one that the York County group was putting together, they actually cut that system from their possibilities of vendors that they were going to go with for one reason or another, and I don't know what the reason was. But like I said, if it's not going to be structured the way that it was intended to be constructed in the beginning, if I'm going to link to somebody else's server, it might as well be where we're going to end up or where we get our PSAP calls from to save time. But again, that's I'd like to think that it would probably happen within the next year. Probably next year, it's going to be a discussion we're going to have. What that number looks like right now, I don't know. But it's a work in progress. We're just trying to prepare for it. The next one is the 911 PSAP service contract, and that has been increased to $32,000, and that's up a little bit, and that's just a number that Scarborough gave me for budgeting purposes. There's a little bit of an increase from last year, and that's based on per capita as well. Contract maintenance. This is for our NCIC connection to the state, as well as the BMV system, which is also connected to the state. Our recording devices that we have, all of the calls that come into dispatch, either via radio or via phone, are all recorded. That's on a system that we pay a fee for. So those funds would be to cover the costs of the equipment that we have in there that has a maintenance agreement, or we have a monthly fee for.
Further questions on the dispatching?
No.
Seeing
The
none?
next account is the animal control budget. So the first one is the salaries line. And again, as you know, last year we increased that position to a full-time position. So she works 40 hours a week. And Originally, that was to be shared with the town of Hollis, and when Hollis backed out of that agreement with us, I still felt that it was important for us to have that position full-time. I had a discussion with the Board of Selectmen about keeping that in my budget. They approved that, and it's definitely a need for it. It's been working out very well. I think I've mentioned it before. Animal control is a difficult position to fill. I think a lot of towns struggle with that, hence why Hollis was trying to have us help them with theirs. And I think we have the right fit for us right now, and I felt it was important to keep that position full-time so that we didn't lose her to somebody else that was looking for an animal control officer full-time. She does an excellent job. She handles everything that she's supposed to handle. And that position, obviously with the 3%, she's a non-union position, so she gets a 3% increase, and I think it's a good thing.
What's their schedule?
So her schedule it varies. So she typically works Monday through Friday, and it varies from her hours. There are some Saturdays that she works as well, but I pretty much let her, because she's the only person that covers that position. Yeah. So she kind of monitors where trouble spots are and trouble times, and so I kind of let her be flexible with her schedule. So she does mix in some Saturdays and Sundays from time to time. I would say probably at least once, if not twice a month, she's here on the weekend. But it's not, evening hours or overnight hours. It's typically during the day, but the day of the week can vary.
So we don't have any numbers on what actually happens for her through the year, how many dogs she has to track down, or?
I can get those numbers for you. I don't have them in front of me right now, but yes, we do track how many animal calls we have, and we have them broken down by categories as well. Stray dogs, dog bites, nuisance animals. I can tell you that, I can get to it at some point, but in the animal control budget, I did add another line for incidentals. And the reason for that is when we talk about the cases and the things that she does, so she's also, not only does she catch, loose dogs or nuisance dogs, but she also has the responsibility to make sure that dogs are being cared for. And so when she gets a case that involves a dog that's been neglected, she has a duty to act on that. We did run into an incident this past year where she had a case where a home had several dogs in it that were not being cared for, and she ended up having to take the dogs from them. And when we take dogs from people, we have to care for them at the kennel. So unfortunately, we got a bill for that. And so we can get restitution on that when the case is adjudicated, but until that happens, we're responsible for that, for those fees that were associated with that case. So that's why if you look at the shelter contract line, it's been overdrawn for this year, and that's because of an incidental that happened that I had to cover. And it's with the Animal Refuge League. And that's outside of our contract with them. So the contract that we have with them covers stray dogs, loose dogs that we don't know who the owner is. We take them to the Animal Refuge League, and they'll hold the dog there until either the owner comes and gets it or they have to turn it over to a new owner. But it does not cover cases that we handle that we take dogs from. So I added a line to my budget to make sure that we have incidental money there for those types of cases. Honestly, for me, it's I don't know if I would call it a mistake, but I didn't realize that was a possibility. It never crossed my mind that we would get a bill for, $3,500 for a case like that. So I didn't have incidentals in there for those types of cases. Now I do.
I was just wondering how many dogs would it, in the year, end up going down to Westbrook?
I can get that number for you.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't have it right here in front of me, but I can get it for you.
Basically cheap, because it shows you how much of a problem it is or isn't, that's all.
Yeah, and I think as far as like licensing dogs, having her full-time here now when she's not involved in cases or dealing with dogs that are stray dogs or runaways or loose dogs, having her here full-time gives her an opportunity to manage that licensing program that we have here, to make sure people are licensing their dogs and follow up on that. But when she was here 20, 24 hours a week, it didn't give her a lot of time to focus on that stuff, and now she's able to do that.
All set? Fit?
The next one is supplies for the animal control officer. I left that at $300. That's to provide supplies that she needs to do her job on a daily basis.
Nick?
The next is vehicle maintenance. I've increased that to $1,500 from $800. And the reason for that is if you look for this year's budget, I've overdrawn that for vehicle repairs. That vehicle is a 2017 GMC van. But prior to when she went full-time, it wasn't driven a lot. And so that's good and bad. When a vehicle doesn't get driven a lot, it sits a lot and it causes parts to rust. And so when I talked before about vehicle maintenance and spending $3,000, one of the vehicles that I had to spend a lot of money on was the animal control van this week. It needs brakes all the way around, e-brake cable and e-brake shoes. The pinion seal is leaking on it, and it's mostly from the fact that it's sat most of its life, and now it's being utilized on almost a daily basis, and it's starting to catch up with it a little bit. But I think, again, it's not something that we can overlook. If something needs to be addressed with that, I take care of it. So moving forward, I wanted to increase that in case we have some other incidents or things that come up with that vehicle.
Nick?
New equipment, I left that at $500. That's to replace any equipment that she has, the have-a-heart traps, the grab poles that she uses, basically any equipment that she uses, it's just to keep that funded.
Next?
The next one is animal control training. I left that at $500. That's to keep her certified as an animal control officer and provide her with any new training that she sees that she needs on a yearly basis.
Next?
Uniforms and accessories, $600. I left that the same. That provides her with an animal control shirt that she wears, and any other equipment that she's carrying with her on her person.
Nick?
Miscellaneous, I left that at $600. Again, it's expenses that we use for any other incidentals that come up. If you look at the miscellaneous for the animal control now, that was used, so same case, before it went to those dogs went to the Animal Refuge League, they had to go see a vet to get cleared before they would take them there. So the miscellaneous account was used to pay for the vet bills for the dogs that went there before they went to the Animal Refuge League.
Which vet did you go to?
It varies. I'm not sure which one she uses right now, but I think it varies for her based on availability. A lot of times if she knows that she's going to be dealing with one of these cases, she might reach out to local vets to find out who's available to take these dogs and care for them right away versus waiting. So it varies.
Hollis is the best.
Sure. Yeah. The next one is gas and mileage. I left that at $3,200.
Next?
The shelter contract, that number hasn't changed. There was no increases in that contract for this year. And then the last one, like I talked about before, is incidentals, and I put $3,500 in there to cover any cases that we have that are animal control related. The next one you should have in front of you is pre-employment testing. Is that what you have in front of you? Okay. So we left that at $8,500. That account is used for any kind of, if we're going to hire a new patrol officer, they have to be polygraphed, they have to do a psychological exam, they have to do a medical exam. So that money is what we use to pay for those types of testing for them. So the next on the agenda is the capital improvement items. So the first one, I'm sure it's not a surprise to you, but it's a new cruiser for this year. The cruiser it's replacing now has 205,000 miles on it. So we would be looking to replace that. One of the things that was brought up as far as the school resource officer position was, is that position going to come with a car? Because obviously they're going to need to bounce between each of the schools. And so the idea behind that is if we replace a car and the school resource officer position goes through, we'll keep the oldest car and that will be assigned to them to use to go between the schools. If that position gets cut, if it gets cut, that cruiser would go to auction or bid or whatever it would be done with.
Now, will we get any reimbursement from the school department?
I don't know that yet, because it's a cruiser that is at the end of its life, and again, it would be used to, they wouldn't be running call to call from it. It'd be a transport for them to go from school to school and use as a vehicle instead of using their own personal vehicle. And if we utilize a car that's in patrol, then it ties up that car that it can't be used in patrol if it's at the school all day long. So it's something we would have to work out.
Okay.
The next one is a network server for the police department. So this would be done through Burgess Technology, our IT department. They approached me just prior to budget season and said that the server that we have at the police department is at the end of its life. It needs to be replaced. And that's the number that they gave me to replace that. And this is essentially the network hub of the police station. If we don't have our network up and running, we don't have anything. It's an important thing. It was suggested by them. I believe that the one we currently have is approximately 10 years old, and it's at its end of life, or close to it. The next one is laptops and cruiser mounts for the police department. And that's in the amount of $60,000. So the computers that we have in the cars now, some of them are starting to reach their age limit as well. As you know, there's different officers using them on a daily basis. They run 24 hours a day. The screens get beat on, the keyboards get beat on. It's a wear item. It's time to start thinking about replacing those. And so I started doing some brainstorming and researching. A lot of departments are kind of going towards getting laptops again instead of the patrol PCs that we use now. And the idea with us is to assign each officer their own laptop computer, have docking stations in the cruisers, so that officer has his or her own laptop, and all of their cases are on one laptop. We wouldn't have to maintain desktop computers in the patrol room, so that's going to be a cost savings. The officer has a computer assigned to them. When they go on shift, they go out to their cruiser. There's a docking station. They dock it in. They log into their network, and they're off and running. If they get back to the station and they need to do some computer work inside the building, there'll also be a docking station in the patrol room. They lock their computer in and they can do their work there. We wouldn't have to replace the desktops in there anymore. It sounds a little bit strange, but when we deal with some investigative stuff for wrongdoing, we don't have to go through a whole bunch of hoops and jumps to try to figure out what computer they were on or what network or whose computer were they logged into. They have their own computer. All of their work is saved on there. And if there's an issue with something they're doing they're not supposed to be doing, it'll all be in one place. It's a lot of agencies are doing that. It is a good benefit to that. So that's why I asked for that.
How many are you thinking that you're gonna be able to get with it?
So that $60,000 would be purchasing basically 14 laptops. So each officer would be assigned a laptop, and then there would be a spare one and one for a reserve officer to use as well. This is a reserve officer on duty, and that includes installation of the docking stations in the cars and at the public safety building. And the computers themselves. They come with a 6-year warranty, and anything that goes wrong in those computers within the first 6 years is covered 100%. If they can't repair it, they'll replace it.
Who are you buying those things?
It comes from, Northeast MDT. And they actually specialize in this type of equipment. We did demo one this past fall, and it worked phenomenal. Any other questions?
Good.
And the next capital improvement item is the photocopier. Our photocopier died in the hallway. So this would be to replace that photocopier in the hallway, which covers the patrol area, the patrol supervisors. The one that was in there before was approximately, I think, 14 years old. We had a power surge probably 2 or 3 months ago, and it ended its life. And when the repair company came in to look at it, they said that there was 2 boards burned up in it, and they no longer make parts for that photocopier. They were nice enough to give us a loaner until July if we can get the funding for the new one. So we were able to get a loaner for that, but that's an important photocopier for us to have.
Can you just touch a little bit on the K-9 officer?
Sure.
That program, how is that going? Is it in the budget? I know, like miscellaneous, where is all that?
So right now, to answer your question on how it's going very well. He's had numerous apprehensions. We've had several drug cases that were solved by that dog. He's done some community events, some demonstrations. It's been a great program. Sergeant Maines is responsible for the dog, and he's done a phenomenal job with that. And right now, we're still working that position under the grant funding. So we still have, last time I checked, I think we had like $13,000 roughly left in that account. The only thing that's being drawn out of that is, vet bills, food for the dog, and any incidentals that happen with that dog. Once we get close to utilizing the remainder of that money, whenever that might be, we're in the 3rd year of that program. And so when it starts getting close, we'll have to come up with, how much do we spend on a yearly basis on the dog and put that in as a line in the budget. I don't anticipate it to be a lot. Dog food and vet visits and stuff so far hasn't been too bad.
So how old, the dog's only 3?
I believe the dog will be 3 this year. Yep.
Nice job.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. It was good. Any other questions at all?
Any questions,
Good.
Selectman?
No,
Board?
Nope.
nope.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Chief, thank your officer for me, will you?
I heard your name over the radio.
90 and a 20.
Oh, boy.
Can't stay out of trouble, can you?
I believe if.
Said you can't stay out of trouble, can you?
Right? We're gonna have a workshop next week. Tuesday night. All set, Dave.